On the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use. Welcome to the GBC podcast, where we talk about the Packers and our hometown of Green Bay. This is episode 52, created on September 12th, 2023. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, Jeff in Minnesota, Neil on the East Coast. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Hello, gentlemen. Tonight I'm having another variation of the Founders KBS. This one is the chocolate cherry.
And I love Czech Pilsners. I was drinking Czech Pilsners during the game on Sunday. And so I'm drinking Czechvar, which is the original Budvar, the original Budweiser, until Budweiser paid them off for the name. But a just lovely Czech Pilsner.
All right. And I have a Dewar's Scotch on the rocks. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast, Green Bay Chat. And just the audio is available on Spotify by searching for Green Bay Chat. Well, what are our topics this week? It's a review of the victory over the Bears. Hey, we're going to look around the league in week one, and we're getting ready for week two at Atlanta. We've got a guest tonight. We're going to be tailgating or talking about tailgating with our guest. And we've got a history lesson as well about our upcoming opponent. But you guys, Bears week and the season opener wrapped into one. And it could not have been more astounding if you had written it as a movie script. Very excited to see the Packer victory. Very excited to see this young team perform on a national stage. Very excited to see Bears fans just exiting in droves with 10 minutes left in the game. You're both smiling. You got to laugh. This works better when you actually make the noise that you are laughing and enjoying. This was a great game. Jeff, how much fun was it?
First question, though, for Jeff. Is Jeff sober yet? Because we had a post-game Zoom, and Jeff was very celebratory.
Yes, that's all true. Absolutely. The booze raining down in the third quarter really started it for me. It was just, this is fantastic, right? It was a close game, yeah, in the first half. But, man, when those booze started coming down, first game of the opening, oh, it was awesome. Just amazing.
The Bears aren't who we thought they were. They're worse. They're much, much worse. And all of the hope of Bears fans just being destroyed in the opening game of the season, you couldn't ask for anything more as far as schadenfreude for your opposing teams and for your rival teams. But let's talk about the positives, because it's really the positives about how well the Packers played that is the biggest part of this game. We talked about our reasons for optimism for this team, and basically every single thing that we mentioned as a reason for optimism came through. The things that were question marks, they came through on the positive side as well. But let's just start out with Jordan Love. Let's just go with Jordan Love's stat line. 15 of 27, 245 yards, 9.1 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. That sounds a whole lot like a stat line from Brett Favre in Super Bowl 31 of 14 of 27, 246, 3 total touchdowns. That's how you want your young quarterback to start in his first game as the full-time starter as a Packer.
He had great run support. Hey, there's a concept, right? We've talked about this. We're like, please make it happen. Please make it happen. It happened. Aaron Jones was a beast.
When he was on the field.
He had it for 2 quarters. Let's not go crazy here.
The third, right. Yeah, what happened in the second quarter? That was just insane. But Neil, do you have the quarterback rating? I think the overall game rating was a 123.2, but just on third and fourth down.
On third and fourth downs, he was 8 of 10, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, a perfect 158.3 on third and fourth downs. And yeah, it's that poise on third and fourth downs that I think was most impressive. You take a young quarterback and you question whether in the moment they're going to make the right decisions. And when the game mattered most, when the plays mattered the most, he made those conversions. And just start out from his first completion in the game. It's a 3rd and 13. We are in Bears territory, and he hits a 13-yard pass to Romeo Doubs. Absolute perfection.
You couldn't have asked for better stat. And that's what won the game, period. Converting those third downs, being consistent with converting those third downs, that was fantastic. That's veteran play, right? I mean, that's what we saw from a really, really young quarterback.
Neil, being a scientist, I know you want to extrapolate that data out over 17 games. Those numbers, it'll be what, 51 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and 17 sacks, right? And what do we say, 4,100 yards, 4,165? And those theories of math apply to sports, so we can expect that this season as well.
That's right. I like advanced statistics a bit more than random extrapolation. And one of the advanced statistics is the expected points added per play. This has been a hot new statistic. Jordan Love was plus 0.55 expected points added per play. The best quarterback last year was Mahomes at 0.30, so almost double that. And then Justin Fields was negative 0.22 expected points added per play. That is, he actually helped his team get worse every time he was playing.
Yeah, here's my surprise face.
You know, the way you mentioned that, though, Neil, it kind of did play out that way. I think early in the game, the Green Bay defense was having trouble containing Fields. We were worried that he was going to run all over us, and there were some plays where he should have been sacked, and he did get away. But during the game, it did get worse. He did not get better throughout the game. It was almost like the defense picked up on his nuances. They were able to predict his movements. The passing, they do 2 deep passes the entire game. It did not get better as the game went on.
And he did have that magical statistic, though. He did pass for over 200 yards.
Yeah, only due to garbage time.
Yes.
But staying on the offense, though, we had also excellent play from our offensive line, whether it's David Bakhtiari's 90 PFF grade in pass blocking. Zach Tom was an absolute beast, 84 and 83 pass and run blocking grades. And then we had Rasheed Walker coming in on several plays, including that critical screen to Aaron Jones, and having that 6th going to a U71 type package, having that 6th offensive lineman coming in and making the difference when you need to make a difference. But I think overall, what we all liked about the game from an offensive perspective, in addition to just how the players played, was the game plan. Matt LaFleur was trying to change things up. Everything was going differently. They were never able to get comfortable with what we were doing. We were always doing something different. And the same thing happened on defense. And the game plan was a huge part of our success against the Bears.
Well, and this was one of those situations, too, where with Love, he's executing the plan, right? With Rodgers, there was open for interpretation, and Rodgers would change the play, hold on to the ball, whatever. Where I felt it was more of a pure, this is what we're getting. These are the plays that are being called, and we're seeing those plays being executed, and for the most part, executed very well.
We also saw contributions from a number of young players in that game. Musgrave with 3 receptions for 50 yards. Now, he probably should have had 2 touchdowns, but first game, I can live with that. Jaden Reed, 2 huge receptions for 48 yards, and then 2 absolutely enormous punt returns as well. Romeo Dobbs, he only had 2 touchdowns in the game. I mean, and then we saw contributions even from Wicks, from Heath, from Sims. We saw plays from all over the entire field in that game. Everyone on offense was contributing to the game.
The offensive line, I want to go back to that too and just mention that on the Aaron Jones touchdown run, the block from Zach Tom as well to push that line down. I did freeze frame that and I took a photo of it for Neil. We're going to try to blow it up, or we're going to see if the team photographer has some better field level shots of that one, because that was just beautiful. Like you said, Zach Tom, he's not a big guy in the sense that, how you like your tackles to be really tall, but he's stout. He's a plugger, and he is just moving people at will on that offensive line.
And then going broadly to how we started the game. Yes, we had good field position thanks to our defense, but the Packers in that game matched their total number of opening drive touchdowns in the entire last year. And Jordan Love matched the number of total 3 touchdown passing games as Aaron Rodgers had the last 2 years. So again, you could not ask for a more perfect start to the season for the offense.
And you talk about, Neil, that first scoring drive. When you watch that scoring pass on TV, first of all, the pocket was very nice, and Love had quite a bit of time, but he stepped up into the pocket, and it almost looked like he was going to get swallowed. We were fractions of a second away from something negative happening there, and all of a sudden that ball just came out, and it had a little bit of zip on it that I think was missing in the preseason, and he just showed, like you said, that poise, and everything was perfect on it. It was beautiful. Couldn't have written it better, and we look forward to more from the offense for the rest of the season. Can we get more from the defense?
I don't know. Depending on how you count, we either had 26 or 38 pressures on Justin Fields in that game. Our defensive front was absolutely amazing. Obviously, we did some things as far as switching it up as well as far as blitzing are concerned. but just sort of total number of pressures on Justin Fields, it's hard to argue that we could do any better as far as our defensive front. And I'll just put it for comparison. There were only 3 total quarterback hits on Jordan Love in that game. And, in contrast to that, Justin Fields was sacked 4 times. And if Justin Fields were not the amazing athlete that Justin Fields is, that could have been 8, 9, 10 sacks that we had on Justin Fields. It was an amazing performance by that front of our defense.
Yeah, a couple of those were free shots too. He was just a magician back there. But no, I agree too. As that's one of the comments that was made during the game, is like, man, if he's not Justin Fields, if he's not a super mobile quarterback, this guy's on his back half the game.
That defense against a more pure pocket passer, someone who's going to stand in there. But on the other side of that coin, we really found out how fast Lucas Van Ness is as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was amazing to chase down Justin Fields in a case where you don't expect anyone, much less a defensive lineman, to be chasing down Justin Fields. And such at a critical point of the game when they were threatening to score a touchdown that would put them ahead of us in the game. Consecutive plays, Van Ness and Rasul kept the Bears from scoring 4 points on that drive. And that ended up being critical because it was really after those stops, we started to get some momentum on our offense.
I mean, does that put the league on notice how fast Van Ness is? That could have easily been a missed tackle or just, made him look bad. And he caught him and he hauled him down.
I just want to put on notice how fast the entire defense is. And I keep saying it. We need to get faster, and we got faster. This is a speedy defense. Even on the Jair Alexander, when he almost had Fields on the sack, and like I said, early in that game, as Fields was able to snake away, but it changed during the game. We got faster. We were able to pick up on predictability. And as you said, then you get that front is performing strong. You get Wyatt and Brooks and Clark just pushing through that line.
All of those with the sack.
Yeah, and disrupting that offense. And it makes that defensive backfield look even faster, even better.
Well, and then what it does, putting pressure on the quarterback and just waiting for him to make a mistake. And then the mistake that was made, oh man, that was awesome. That could be like the play of the year. And it was in the first game, right? I mean, that return for a touchdown. I mean, come on. That was friggin' awesome.
He refused to be stopped. And I just love that spirit of Quay Walker on that. That was, incredible.
And it's not just that, but when you watch the play, he's already 5 to 7 yards off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And as soon as the ball is snapped, he backpedals 5 yards.
Dropped into coverage. Yeah.
Drops back 5 yards. And then on top of that, Fields is dropping back 7 yards. And then when he goes to make the pass, Walker moves back another 3 yards and into the middle of the field. And when you see that pass on TV, just the distance that ball travels on the TV, and Quay Walker catch, what the hell is he doing that far back? It was unreal how far back he was that he caught the ball. He was where he was supposed to be, but it looked like he was playing deep safety. And he just snatched that ball out of the air, and it was an incredible return because he became a pinball for a moment, bouncing off of one defender. A couple of guys got knocked flat on their ass. Rashawn Gary said, hey, I may as well knock somebody down too while I have the chance. And as you said, he wasn't going to be stopped. It was beautiful. And what a just from that, just ripping everything out, rip the hearts out of the fans. And you knew that there was no turning back after that moment.
Well, and that's kind of where the speed comes in though, too, right? He was able to not only drop back into coverage, but once he had the ball, I mean, it wasn't like, big man with the football. It wasn't one of those situations. It was like, holy shit, here's a running back. Just like you said, he was not going to be stopped. So that was the other thing. And certainly rallied the defense too, right? Hopefully that's not the play of the year. Hopefully there'll be many more of those. But man, that was certainly memorable.
And we certainly got in their head too, because how often do you hear false start, the entire offensive line?
Pick one, right? I mean, and they're at home. I mean, this is not supposed to happen. So no, there was lots of good to go around.
And just sort of continuing on a few other statistics as far as the defense is concerned, Justin Fields' overall QBR was only 21.6. This is the 0 to 100 scale again. Other than Justin Fields, they had 20 rushes for only 63 yards. So we held them to just over 3 yards a carry. And as far as what we were doing on our defense is concerned, one thing that was noted is Joe Barry is calling a different game this year. They have built a lot more into their game planning. And so specifically stunts were a huge part of the Packers game. Of the 38 pressures, 24 of them involved a stunt. Last year, we were the team that was least likely to have stunts in the NFL. This week, we were first in the NFL as far as number of defensive plays that involve stunts. We're clearly trying to take advantage of our speed, trying to take advantage of the ability to create matchups and really keep them on their back heels and have the defense make a difference.
So speaking of difference makers, I want to talk a little bit about the ass hats. Okay.
Did they do all right, Jeff? Did they do all right by you this week?
They did, John.
All
Yes, they did. We've talked about this. This is a question mark. You've got a rookie punter. You've got a rookie place kicker. You know, what's going to happen? I think they really, really performed well. Few stats. Of course, you've got Mr. Carlson. He hits a huge 52-yard field goal at the end of the first half. So he's 1 for 1 on field goals and 5 for 5 with the point afters, which again, we were like, oh, okay, what's going to happen here? So then we've got Keyshawn Nixon, 2 kick returns for 55 yards. That's pretty solid. We mentioned him as a receiver, but Jaden Reed, wow. 3 punt returns, 54 yards on those 3 with a long of 35. And our punter, another rookie here, Daniel Whelan, 5 punts. He has almost a 50-yard average and got that long of 68. A 68-yard punt by the rookie. I think the ass hats, we're going to keep their name for a little while longer here this season, but maybe we can bring them back at some point to being our special teams.
Saying they got to earn it.
Yes.
But specifically as far as Jaden Reed, so much of that as far was the timing as well. So going back to the end of that first half, the Bears, with about a minute left in the first half, punted the ball to the Packers 29. Reed takes it out to the 44-yard line. So now we've got 112. We start at the 44 and then immediately follows up with a 30-yard pass reception from Jordan Love. 2 huge consecutive plays that were critical to us going and taking that 10-6 lead at halftime. And then second half, we scored the touchdown to begin. We hold Chicago to 3 and out, 54-yard punt, and that 35-yard return was immediately after that, gave us field position again in Chicago territory, and we took it down with a touchdown from Love to Jones to make it 24-6. But essentially, the situational elements of both of Reed's huge returns led to touchdowns. They led to us having great field position, a short field, and led to touchdowns. And that's what took the game from a 7-6 game to a 24-6 game. 2 huge Reed punt returns in that time.
Finally, the ass hats making a positive impact.
It was a great game to watch. It was fun. It wasn't perfect, but it was close, and there's still room for improvement. Neil, where do we need to improve? What didn't work on Sunday?
The second quarter. Overall,
yes, leaving Aaron Jones on the bench for an entire quarter. I suppose that would be something, yes.
So overall, it's actually kind of remarkable. You look at the statistics, and if you didn't know what the final score of the game is, you might think that the Bears won the game. The Bears actually had more first downs than we did, 22-15. They had almost as many yards as we only had 329 yards of offense. You don't usually associate the number of points we scored with only 329 yards of offense. The Bears had 311. So we only had 18 more yards of offense than the Bears did. And they actually beat us for time of possession, 31 to 29 minutes. And we had more penalties. We had 9 penalties for 90 yards compared to 7 for 61 for the Bears. Those are all pretty important numbers. And obviously that doesn't include turnovers, which is a huge one. It doesn't include the fact that we were 3 of 3 in the red zone. And most importantly, we were 9 of 16 on third down compared to the Bears, 3 of 13 on third down. But I want to look specifically into that second quarter because Jordan Love was only 3 of 9 for 56 yards in that second quarter. Jones, no yards rushing, is a score for the third quarter of only 3-3 for the quarter score. But there were definitely some growing pains, and I'm hoping that they are growing pains. I mean, Love did miss a couple passes. There were a couple passes that were not perfect, but globally, we do have to look at the fact that it was, we were not completely comfortable at halftime. Let's just say we were happy that we were ahead. It was only a 4-point game at halftime, and it's very easy to have recency bias and say, wow, that was a blowout. Love is, the next MVP. Love is the next Pro Football Hall of Famer. It did not go that way the whole game. And there were definitely stretches where we weren't perfect. And I think that's part of, however, learning the offense and learning the defense. And the fact that we were rotating a lot of players through. We put a lot of plays for Malik Heath. Ben Sims had a reasonable number of plays. Samari Toure had a fair number of plays. Obviously, we didn't have Christian Watson, but we're definitely still figuring this out. And I think hopefully that's what that second quarter is figuring it out, because it was not pretty when you look at the numbers there.
You know what? I'll take figuring it out and a victory. I mean, and that's really the takeaway here, right? We've talked about the holy grail before of like, can we get 4 quarters of really good football, right? I mean, when in the hell is this going to happen? When are we going to get 4 quarters? Well, we had what, 2.5, 3 this time?
We had 2 spectacular quarters and we had 1 good quarter. So,
but on the whole, way better than last year. I mean, when we were really scrounging for, God, are we going to get any good quarters? And they said progress. They're young. There were mistakes made, but there was also, I think, a lot learned and certainly success.
When you break it down to position groups, though, you mentioned Christian Watson, and there was a lot of concern going into this game. Are these young receivers going to be able to step up? And the running game did what we expected it to do. We expected great things out of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon to take the pressure off of our quarterback. What we didn't expect was these young receivers to also step up like they did. Romeo Doubs in particular. I feel like Malik Heath and Dontavian Wicks, who had such great preseasons, they found out that there's a difference between a regular season game and a preseason game.
Yeah, a little faster.
I don't think that they soiled themselves, but they weren't the same players. But now they've got a taste, and now I think that they're ready for things to happen. Jaden Reed, who is a guy who was made for big plays throughout college, I mean, he got shaken up 3 times. His helmet came off twice. You know, he had the leg cramps. It didn't faze him. He was ready to keep going. And it's great to see a maturity level like that out of a young player, out of a rookie player. And he just kept going. So, yeah, that receiver group, the tight end group stepped up in a way that they definitely needed to step up for this game.
Well, and they were given a chance, right?
Yeah.
They fortunately didn't have any like terrible drops. Or there wasn't a play like, oh my God, that was really bad. And they were given a chance to succeed, and by and large, they did.
And succeeded in different contexts. Reed also is the one who recovered that onside kick that truly ended the game, even though it was dead for everyone except for the announcers. One other player deserves a shout out, and that is the jersey I'm wearing, Darnell Savage. We had lots of questions about him going in. 10 tackles, tackle for loss. He was huge all game. He appears to be revitalized. And when we talked about potential question marks, that was a huge one. And if we get that Darnell Savage this year, our defense is going to be incredible.
Yeah, he seems revitalized, something. I don't know, but like I said, we'll take it. It was pretty awesome.
So the victory puts the Packers at 1-0. Our opponent for next week, the Atlanta Falcons, they are also 1-0. Coming up this week, the Packers-Falcons, one of just 3 games where both teams will be 1-0. But let's take a look around the league. Like we said, the Falcons beat the Panthers 24-10. Without going down the list of scores, though, what happened this week that maybe wasn't expected, or as we like to put it, Jeff, who shit the bed this week?
I had a front row seat for one of those, John.
Excellent.
Here in Minnesota, Vikings had really high expectations, but honestly, there was 3 turnovers in the first half by Kirk Cousins. Now, we've talked about this when Matt LaFleur and the Packers starters played in the preseason. Again, maybe dangerous, risking injury, but you know what? They looked prepared for this first real game. Vikings didn't. Justin Jefferson was amazing. He was electric, but nobody else for the most part was.
Is that really true? I mean, Cousins had really good statistics, right? 33 of 44, so 75%.
Yeah.
344 yards, 7.8 per attempt. That doesn't sound like somebody who was not prepared. How do you say that Cousins was not prepared?
The team as a whole for the running, they had no running game. So basically Tampa was able to key. They knew that Cousins was going to pass. And he, once again, like last year, with the questionable offensive line, got hit a lot. And so, yeah, he was responsible in the first half for all 3 of those turnovers. I mean, the game was reasonably close, but not everything was put together.
Just following up on that, the Vikings running backs, not named Kirk Cousins, had 14 rushes for only 34 yards.
There was no running game.
And that line is questionably offensive. Other games around the league. So the Cincinnati Bengals, Neil, chalk this one up to maybe just not prepping in the preseason, Joe Burrow being injured. The last couple of years, they just haven't won in Cleveland, and it happened again this year, season opener. This is a team with high hopes, and wow, they just did not show up in Cleveland.
Joe Burrow, 14 of 31 for only 82 yards, sacked twice, only 67 net yards passing for that incredible Cincinnati passing offense. 67 net yards passing. That's all you need to say.
And none of them to T. Higgins, I might add, who was my fantasy starting wide receiver.
Jeff, nobody cares about your fantasy team.
Exactly, Jeff. Neil, the other team that I feel didn't show up, Pittsburgh Steelers, not only not showing up, but not showing up at home, hosting the San Francisco 49ers. 30-7, the final there. And for a home opener for Pittsburgh, that was just pretty miserable. But let's bring it around to the Monday night matchup, a game that a lot of Packer fans wanted to watch. We wanted to watch. We have high hopes, or had high hopes, for the season for the New York Jets. And in 4 simple plays, it ended for the Jets, but it didn't end. This is a team that they continued to play defense, and they continued to rely on their running game. They've got a great young running back in Breece Hall, and they ended up winning this game. And you know darn well, not only was Buffalo, A, hoping to go in and win this to set the tone for the season, but B, once Aaron Rodgers went down, I think they thought they were going to win, and Josh Allen just could not get anything to work last night.
No, he was pretty terrible. He was responsible for all 4 turnovers.
And he was sacked 5 times as well.
I think the Jets, they're going to have to fight. They want to be a playoff team. Every game that the Jets play is going to be like this, right? I mean, they were +4 in the turnovers, and it took a punt return in overtime to win.
Whatever it takes, though, right? Whatever it takes. And that is a total team effort. This is a team that they thought they had the answer in Aaron Rodgers. Credit Zach Wilson. I mean, come on. This is a kid who he fell apart last year. His confidence is shaken. They bring in Aaron Rodgers. He's thinking, what am I going to do? Am I going to be able to play? And all of a sudden, hey, get in there and play. And he did well. And the team rallied around, and credit to the Jets that they put together a game that they stayed in it. The defense incredibly kept them in that game. But again, Buffalo just was not ready for this game.
I mean, I think Robert Saleh, if he can get the Jets into the playoffs this year without Aaron Rodgers, he would deserve Coach of the Year for this. And I think he's got that ability in him. I really do respect him as one of the best coaches in the NFL.
And we definitely wanted Aaron Rodgers to play this year. We wanted to see the Jets succeed. We wanted to see Rodgers play well. But with the injury, and knowing what we did in our predictions last week, I'm not going to let you do it, but does it make you want to change what you predicted? Not just the AFC East, but the AFC in general, where the Jets are going to fall. And does this allow a different team now to rise up?
Well, I don't think that I expected Miami to be so absolutely dominant on offense, right? Tyreek Hill and Tua were out of this world good on offense. And I just sort of expected Miami to have a little bit of regression this year. I don't see regression. I see Miami taking the spot that I had predicted for the Jets in the playoffs.
Or Miami might even be the best team in the AFC. Will they be able to keep up that offensive juggernaut? Who knows? It's certainly interesting in that AFC East, right? Because now the Jets, if they might lag behind or whatever, so Miami's got to be just thinking, oh, all right.
And even though I wrote it down in pencil, I'm not letting you change it. So what we predicted is what we predicted. And wrapping up the league in week 1, Neil, anyone else you want to look at?
Dallas, man. Dallas, I think, is the clear favorite in the NFC for going to the Super Bowl after that absolutely dominating performance on defense. And you can say, well, are the Giants regressing that much? Are the Giants that bad? I just think that with what the Cowboys have added on their defense, what they've added on their offense, they are going to be a truly great team during the regular season, at least. And we'll see if McCarthy can get that on from the regular season into the playoffs, into the Super Bowl. But I just want to point out, it was a 40-0 game. But at one point, Daniel Jones was 9 of 21 for 59 yards, 2 interceptions, 6 sacks for 38 yards. That is, on his first 27 dropbacks, he only had 21 net yards for a 0.7 yards per attempt on his first 27 dropbacks. That's Fields-esque as far as how futile it was.
A lot of negative accolades for the New York Giants in this game. They've got a lot of work ahead of them for this season, and it's a matter of time to see, Neil, are the Cowboys going to be for real? That'll be interesting. So a week 1 of teams that came out strong. Some teams, as we said, shit the bed. But our Green Bay Packers 1-0, facing the Atlanta Falcons 1-0. So Green Bay in week 2, traveling down to Atlanta. It's a second road game in a row to start the season. It's a dome. It's a team that also has a fresh young quarterback and a solid young running game. What do you see happening in week 2?
Atlanta also won last week, beating Carolina 24-10. This is a game in which both teams had young quarterbacks, but Atlanta won. They won against a Bryce Young in his first NFL start. And so you'd think, wow, they must have played a pretty good game. And so what I will say is the positive side, or where we have to worry about Atlanta, is that the Falcons rushing game was really good. They had 25 rushes for 131 yards, 5.2 per attempt, 2 touchdowns. Number 8 pick in the draft this year, Bijan Robinson had 10 rushes for 56 yards and ripped off a touchdown in which he broke 3 tackles on that touchdown. This is going to be a really tough son of a bitch to take down. This is going to be a real test as far as our front and our linebackers and our backfield. But on the other hand, there were a lot of things that were question marks for Atlanta this week, in which they essentially got lucky that they were playing Bryce Young. So Desmond Ridder, their quarterback, was 15 of 18, sounds good, but only for 115 yards, a QBR of only 28.8. And he was sacked 4 times for 24 yards. So on 22 dropbacks, Desmond Ridder only had 91 net passing yards. That sounds like something that our defensive front is going to be able to feast on. And globally, looking at the statistics of the game, Atlanta only had 13 first downs in that game. They took advantage of turnovers by Bryce Young. Atlanta only had 221 yards, and Carolina had the time of possession edge 35-25. It was fundamentally 3 turnovers for Carolina versus 0 for Atlanta that made the difference in that game. Atlanta came out with the win. They came out with a fairly easy win. But on the other hand, that sounds like a lot of things that the Packers are going to be able to exploit.
Well, if they can turn Atlanta into a one-dimensional team, right? If they can stuff the run, if they're going to make Ridder pass the ball, that would be awesome, right? I mean, you've got a young quarterback, you've got a defensive line that just wants to feast. So if they can really shut down the run game, this could be a very interesting W.
Yeah, and just sort of looking at their pass blocking. So Atlanta's pass blocking only had a 45 rating by PFF. So this is something that our defensive front should be able to exploit with the stunts and with the speed and with the power that they have.
And I'll be honest, this is just a team that I have no idea what their identity is. I have no idea what Desmond Ridder is like. All I know is that just looking at their record last year and their scores, that last year was a true Jekyll and Hyde team. You just didn't know what direction they were heading into. You hear that they're in rebuilding mode. Like I said, they've got a good young running back. I think give them the benefit of the doubt, and a young quarterback as well. So this is a team that, like Green Bay, right? They've got to bring it together. They've got to get players who are going to step up. They're going to play together, and they're going to get better. It's just going to be probably a matter of coaching matchups, scheme matchups, and maybe, like you said, Neil, that our defensive line is going to feast like it did, and it continues to want to do. That could be the decision maker in this game in week 2.
As long as we can force them to pass. And that's the real question. If they are able to consistently run at that 5.2 yard per attempt clip, they're never going to have to pass. And that's essentially how they were able to make it through. So, but the other thing that we have going for us is that we're going to have more than 11 snaps of Rashawn Gary in this game. And hopefully we'll have Christian Watson as well. And those should both add to our potency on offense and on defense.
It's the noon game on Sunday on Fox. Currently Green Bay favored by 2 points in that game. And in week 1, we had some off-site tailgating in Green Bay. The Lot 1 tailgate crew got together. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we really want to talk about tailgating coming up with the season opener. And that brings us to our guest. She goes by TailKate on Twitter. You can see her on screen there. She's a Colorado girl in a Wisconsin world. Kait, welcome to the GBC podcast, and tell us what you're drinking.
I am drinking water, but out of my Wisconsin-themed water bottle.
Excellent. Water is always good. You can stay hydrated that way. But Kait, we're excited to have you on the program. You've got a nice online presence. You're active on Twitter. You're a huge Packer fan, and we want to talk about your podcast. But first, I want to find out, how does a Colorado girl, A, become a Packer fan, and B, end up in Wisconsin?
Well, thanks for having me. First of all, I am happy to be here. I was born and raised in Colorado. My family was all military. So my grandpa ended up in Colorado after he retired. And so that's where we stayed. And he was a big Packers fan. So growing up, he always told me, hey, make sure if you're going to be a football fan, you have to be a Packers fan because we have enough Broncos fans. We don't need any more. And
Good advice.
right. So when I finally decided to get into football, which is like college age, I really didn't care before that, but I decided to stick with it and honor what I had told him, that I promised I would be a Packers fan. I had met Ray Nitschke. I didn't tell you guys this before, but I met Ray Nitschke when I was like 4, and I got to hold all of his rings, and it was a really cool experience. And it's like the coolest picture I have of my whole life. And so that is extra special and gave me extra reason to be a Packers fan. And so I stayed in Colorado most of my life. And when it was like 4 years ago, I was married, and my husband at the time got a job out here. And I said, well, I got some family out there. Packers are there. Might as well. And it's great. I love it out here. It's worth it. So that's how we ended up in Wisconsin.
And your grandparents are all from Wisconsin originally as well. So you've got that family connection sort of globally, right? So
still got some family here.
When was your first Packer game at Lambeau Field?
It was 2016. So it was before I moved here. My ex-husband went to Marquette, actually. So that's another weird long story, but he ended up back in Colorado with me, but he originally went to Marquette. And so he had friends out here. And so one year we just decided, let's go to a Packers game. He had a mentor of his had season tickets. So we came out 2016. It was the Cowboys game. It was miserable. We lost by a lot, but I did get to see Lambeau Field, and that was a really cool experience in itself, even if the game was horrible.
Was that your introduction to tailgating as well?
No. So quite the opposite, which is why I do what I do. We showed up at his friend's house, and we drove. He lives in Appleton, and we drove from Appleton to Green Bay. We got out of the car. We walked about 2 blocks. We swung into this giant tailgate that was in a tent attached to a house for about 5 minutes, and we walked to the stadium. He made fun of me for taking pictures, and that was it. So we didn't do anything extra other than the game, which was a bummer.
When does tailgating come into play here? Because that's your forte now. You are TailKate because you like tailgating, and you have a big party coming up we're going to talk about. Where did that come in? When did you really get a taste of tailgating?
I had never tailgated before the big tailgate that was the original tailgate. That was in 2021. It was right after everyone was locked down. Nobody could go to games anymore. So it was the first season where everyone was allowed. Was at full capacity. So a bunch of us on Twitter, it was literally a post. I think it was Bruce. I don't know if you guys know Bruce, but he put out a post that said, hey guys, we should all meet up. And so he said, if you're interested, like this post. So I don't know. I just liked it and whatever. And it was probably like 6 months later. He was like, okay, it's time. We're going to all meet up. He started a group chat with all the people that had liked the post, and, you weed through people. So he's like, okay, we're going to do this. And half the people are like, I was just kidding. They were like, I just like the post. I don't actually want to come. So we narrowed it down, and it was a group of 10 of us, and we really wanted to meet up. And so once the schedule came out, we picked a game that kind of made sense for everyone. Good weather, timing wise was good. It was a Sunday, so people could, sandwich it and just leave Monday. And we threw this party, and I was one of the only local ones. So it was me and another guy from Milwaukee. And I, at the time, lived in Port Washington, which is like an hour south of Green Bay. So I volunteered, because I'm crazy, to do all the food and the drinks. And I had a truck. Wow. I was like, I'll do it. I'll bring all the tables, and I'll bring, I had plain cornhole boards and had all this stuff. And I was like, whatever, can't be that hard. I bought a mini grill. We did brats. And that's how I had a truck. I think that's why. That's it. That's the whole reason I do tailgates, because I had a truck.
So you kind of didn't know what you didn't know, but it all worked out.
Yeah, I was like, how hard can this be? I've seen it on TV. I'm sure it's fine. It's very hard. It's really hard.
Okay, and you've got a big tailgate party coming up for the season opener. So taking that experience, you said you started in 21. You've got the same group of people. So this is going to be your 3rd year. Season opener, September 24th, Packers hosting the Saints. It's a noon game. You're going to be in the blue lot right next to the Nitschke field. How did you secure the lot? Did you buy that in advance, or are you just crossing your fingers for this?
Yeah, the first one, I looked at a map and I said, that looks close. We'll see how it goes. Yes. And so I bought the parking ticket online for that game. And I kid you not, every single game I go to, every event that I go to, I do not care. I park in that lot. The lady that runs it, she's a little chihuahua. She's so sweet, so nice. She knows who we are, which makes it really easy for us to get in there, and she lets us like take over a whole like section until it gets really full, and then she makes us give away a spot. But so the first time it was a total gamble. I had no idea what I was doing. The lot is perfect because we're a block away, which is really nice. We're literally on, what is that, Armed Forces?
Yep. Yep. You're in a high foot traffic area there. Definitely.
Yeah. So people can, if they start at Stadium View, they can swing by our tailgate and then keep moving, which is great. We get a spot right next to the fence so that people have a photo opportunity with the G behind them and the whole thing. So we have a really good spot. The first time was luck. The next 2 times were very serious intentions.
Right. Getting there early. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The event, though, free and open to the public?
Free, open, bring whoever. We're asking if people would like to donate a couple bucks. That's great. If you want to bring a case of beer, if you're literally coming for the tailgate and the choice is a case of beer or a little bit of funds, bring some funds because everyone brings beer. I end up with like 6 cases of Miller Lite and I don't drink Miller Lite. So either bring Spotted Cow or money. But no obligation.
That's a quote.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
No obligation.
Simple request, one or the other.
Right. We'll have some food, so we'll have a bunch of snacks, and we're gonna do a Bloody Mary bar because it's super early. So any snack that you can think of that would be on a Bloody Mary, like if you went to think of it eventually.
Sobelman's for sure.
Sobelman's, that's the one I'm thinking of. Anything that you could find on a Bloody Mary at Sobelman's, we'll try to have it. Probably not the whole chicken, but everything else, we'll try to have that. And then Bloody Marys, and we'll do probably some mimosas since we're early in the morning and have a good time.
So your core group, how many people are you expecting?
Oh, gosh. At this point, probably like 25, 25,
and
30
anybody who
maybe.
walks by, they're welcome to join in and have fun. You stay for 5 minutes, stay for 2 hours, right?
Yeah. You can stay the whole time. You can just swing by. We try to take multiple group pictures so everyone gets in. If you're a Saints fan, that's fine too. If you're there with a Saints fan, that's fine.
So we're actually looking forward to the Saints game. I'm going to also be at that game. And part of the reason why I think the Saints game is interesting is because Saints fans are just fun, right?
They're so fun.
LSU
They're
came
so
to
fun.
Lambeau Field for a game against the Badgers about a decade ago, and this is just considered a legendary game among Badgers fans just because the fans from Louisiana are so much fun. So
and
it's a perfect game for a tailgate.
It's so great. And I do wish that maybe, like, it's really cool when it's their stadium. I went to the game down in Florida, in Jacksonville, when they had to move it from Louisiana over to Florida. And the food that these people brought, I mean, I love our food. I love Wisconsin food, but Wisconsin food is very tailgatey. I'm not kidding when I tell you, we had probably 6 different kinds of like jambalaya. Like, it was so good. The food was amazing. So hopefully some Saints fans bring some food and leave it at my tailgate.
Talking about tailgating and what you do, how your fandom kind of has become part of this. You've got the podcast as well. You do the one by yourself, just Tailgate with Kait. Mm-hmm. Certainly talking about tailgating, and you give people tips and advice, as you said. But the other one that I want to hear more about, She's All That. It's a brand new podcast, right?
Right.
Just kind of fan talk, not X's and O's, but you and a couple of girlfriends, right?
Yeah. So Danny and Janet, we all get together and we talk about the game. We talk about expectations. We do superlatives, which is really fun. The episode actually comes out tonight. So I don't know when you guys release this, but the 12th of September is when we'll release it. Yeah, we just talk about tailgating. We talk about fantasy football. We're going to have some segments on that. We're going to try to get some girl fans on the show, whether they're wives, girlfriends. We're going to try to get Christian Watson's mom because we love her. And she interacts with our Twitter quite a lot. So hopefully we can get her on the show. But yeah, it's a new one with the girls. I'm very excited about that one.
Jeff, even though she said fantasy football, we still don't care about your fantasy football team, okay?
That's fine, John. I'll need a hug, maybe a beverage, but yeah, I'll be okay.
But I love the concept, Kait. It's 3 friends who love the Packers talking about all of the elements around the game, not just X's and O's of the game itself.
Yeah. And the three of us are not analysts. I know myself, I'm not going to speak for them, but I don't want to be. I always joke that I really think I'm too simplified to be an analyst, because to me, it seems very simple to like go out and just play the game. Like, how hard could it be? But I'm mostly kidding. But we're not analysts. We're not trying to analyze the game. We're just kind of going out and saying what we like, what we don't like. As women, there are different aspects to the game that maybe some people don't enjoy or don't think about. But, you know, we think about our outfits for tailgates, because especially when it's 10 degrees out, what am I going to wear and still look cute? Well, we got some tips for that too. So
if there is one thing that has, if there's one thing that's always been true about women in Packer games, it doesn't matter what the weather is, you dress cute. And that is more important than anything else. It's been true that way our entire lives.
That's the goal.
All right. Now, Kait, you said you're not an analyst, but you watched the game on Sunday. What did you like about the game? What has you excited for this season?
I know that a lot of people have said it, but I literally rewound the tape when this happened. Jordan Love's composure in that game was incredible, because to me, yeah, he's played the preseason games and they gave him lots of snaps, and, you know, he's a third-year quarterback technically, but the man has never started in a regular season football game as QB1. And in my brain, that would make anybody nervous. And he held his own, and he fumbled that ball and picked it back up and threw it. And it was beautiful. And this is a reach, maybe. Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have done that. Wouldn't have done it, because he would have fumbled and he would have freaked out and everyone would have panicked and he probably would have gotten hurt, just like he did last night, unfortunately.
And he would have yelled at somebody else because it would have been their fault.
Yes. But Jordan Love was so composed and calm, and the way the team backs him up is so awesome to see. Even veterans really have his back, and I'm excited to see if he can hold his composure for 17 games. That's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, and you're right about the team backing him up. Did you see the video clips that the team posted online of the game ball, handing out the game balls in the locker room? Yeah, great.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. I'm so excited about that.
All right, so you're excited about the season. We're going to put you on the spot. Have you thought about it? You've got one game down already, but what was your prediction? What is your prediction for this season for the Green Bay Packers?
Over the offseason, I was saying that I would be really happy with like 9-8. But after seeing the game last week, I don't think I'd be happy with that. I think I would be happy with 11-6.
Wow.
That's what I'm going with.
More optimistic than even us. Jeff and I both ended up at 10-7 on our prediction for the season. So Jeff's got 10-7, but winning the division. I've got 10-7, taking second in the division. Neil, you had 9-8 winning the division. I did. Meant to call you out on that last week. How the hell does that happen?
Because Detroit's got a really tough schedule, and they're not going to. They may end up 9-8 as well, but they're not going to have a dominant year. Detroit has got a lot of holes. They haven't fixed those holes, and 9-8. Well, 8-9 won the South last year, so why can't 9-8 win a division this year?
I think Detroit, our expectations for them to be good is so low that it's like, okay, if they could win more than like, I don't know, 4 games, like that's good. So I think when everyone's like, Detroit's going to be so good this year.
you are a true Packer fan. I love it.
They've just been bad for so long, and it is good to see. And I like Dan Campbell a lot, so I'm excited about them being decent. I hope they don't get decent enough in the next coming years, but it is nice to see. And I really do think that if they can win like 7-8 games, everyone's going to be amazed by that. So the scale of good to bad for the Lions is a little bit different than like our scale or like Minnesota's scale.
So I actually really enjoyed the Lions beating not that I wanted them to beat Kansas City, but I think it's kind of perfect to set up Lions fans that they've got this incredible amount of hope. And usually it's the Vikings fans that have this hope that gets just crushed in the end. This year we get to see the Lions fans hope crushed in the end. So, or at least that's what I'm hoping for. So getting other teams' fans in the division overly exuberant, and then have it come crashing down. That to me is sort of a perfect season for non-Packers elements of the season.
And it's already happened with Bears fans, right? Week 1, we just ticked that right off. I mean, like I said, they were booing in the third quarter. So I think, mission accomplished on that one. So we'll have to revisit this before Thanksgiving, because that'll be the big national game. Packers, Lions, Thanksgiving, the first game. We'll have to see what
where the teams are at that
come
point.
through.
Yeah.
So you're ready for the season. You're ready for your tailgate. This might be a dumb question. Are you actually going to the game? Do you have a ticket to the Saints game as well?
Okay, so I don't have a ticket yet.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
But I am going. The plan is to go. I get this question a lot though. People are like, when should I buy my ticket? Like the schedule comes out and they're like, I'm looking at tickets right now. Don't. I literally buy my tickets like the day before or like on the way up there. I'll probably get them the day before this time just because it's an early game, but they're so cheap. And if you don't have like a big group of people, if you need like 6 tickets, you might not get so lucky. But like if it's just you and like a friend or even just you, I know a lot of people go by themselves. Buy it the day of. Usually you can get them for maybe $100. And if you don't, go to Stadium View and watch, and it's just as fun.
And other than that, what one big piece of advice do you like to give people? You talked about how kind of blah your first experience in Green Bay was. Using what you know now, what do you want someone to know coming to Green Bay for their first time?
I think the main thing that I tell people, kind of 2 things, but take a weekend. Don't just come out for, on Saturday night and leave Monday morning, but also go to the pro shop the day before the game. You can still get all the game gear and all that stuff, the magnets and stuff that have the matchup. You don't have to deal with the crowds that are so miserable. It'll still be busy, but it won't be near as busy as it will on game day.
Do you have a favorite bar or restaurant yet?
I really like Stadium View, and a friend of mine took me there literally like the first time I was in Green Bay, so that might be biased. But I really like Stadium View. It's a lot of fun. I don't spend a lot of time just like eating at restaurants up there. Usually it's like I go to 1919 and I go to Stadium View and I, do all the things, take all the people to the top things. But
all right, we'll talk afterwards, and we're going to get you somewhere else for that weekend. We've got plans for you, is what this comes down to, Missy. We're going to take care of you, and we're going to make sure you enjoy it. But tell us more about your online presence. It's on the screen there. Colorado Girl, Wisconsin World. That's your Twitter handle. Mm-hmm. Where else are you? Instagram. Where can they find you?
Yep. So that's my handle for Twitter and Instagram and Threads. If you're on Threads still, I don't know if anybody is. Those are my main ones. Mostly Twitter. Yeah, it's the same handle. So CO Girl WI World.
And where do we find the podcast or podcasts?
So right now, Tailgate with Kait is on Apple and Spotify. Cheese All That I don't want to promise that like tomorrow it's going to be on Apple and Spotify, but that's the goal. But it is on YouTube. So the episode will be on YouTube tomorrow.
Okay. So video and audio on Cheese All That, and Tailgate with Kait, just audio?
Just audio.
All right. And you said you've an upcoming episode of Tailgate with Kait that you want to do?
It's in the works.
Okay.
It's not solidified yet, but we're working on it.
All right. So we'll find it online. We'll get people to subscribe there as well. We'll post it on our accounts as well. And I'm going to officially invite you, Kait, if you can sneak away for a little bit, even if it's on your walk up to the game, the Green Bay podcast, we are the official podcast of the Lot 1 tailgate party. So in Lot 1, and it'll be on your way. We're right by the Oneida Gate. We have the Grandma Lambeau's apple pie, and you can do a shot ski, and we're going to treat you to a good time at the Lot 1 tailgate party on your way in as well.
Awesome. I'll try to find you guys.
Oh, and we're definitely going to find you. We know right where you are.
Perfect.
Neil and I, we scoped that parking lot out for training camp. Neil spent some good time at the field there as well.
Yeah, I mean, my sort of usual road is I park by Badger State, I'll go to Stadium View, I'll head over to Lot 1 and head into the game. It's going to be a little bit different for the season opener because I'm going to be at Green Bay Distillery for the Arsenal Spurs North London Derby, and I'll head from there over to
but you're right across the street. So, you can still swing by Kait. Yeah.
Yes. Green Bay Distillery is perfectly positioned for going to your tailgate.
Perfect.
All right, Kait, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I'm excited to have you guys.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to a great season. We wish you the best with your podcast, and we will see you the weekend of the season opener. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Hey, John, I thought that was a really great meeting, Kait, tonight, but I think we forgot something really, really, really important there.
What did we forget, Jeff?
Like, what do we do in Denver?
She's from Colorado.
Christ, come on. I mean,
All right.
seriously.
All right, we'll have to talk about getting her back on as a guest. We've got to figure out what to do in Denver when we get there. But that's a few weeks down the road. We're only in week 2. We're ready for the Packers Falcons. And with that, Jeff, I'm going to send it back to you because you have a very brief, hopefully, history of the Atlanta Falcons. Take it away.
I do. So the Atlanta Falcons, on June 30th, 1965, the NFL awarded Atlanta the 15th NFL franchise. The first owner was Rankin M. Smith, and he purchased the team for $8.5 million. So a school teacher named Miss Julia Elliott from Griffin, Georgia, was declared the winner of the nickname contest for this new franchise, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons' first head coach was a guy by the name of Norb Hecker. Gentlemen, does that ring any bells?
Oh.
Well, he was the Packers' defensive backs coach from 1959 to 1965.
Wow.
I did not know that. Falcons were one of the first teams to have a year-round practice facility, and that opened in 1978. So kind of the Rockwood Lodge. Yep, so 1978. And so the Atlanta Falcons have never won a Super Bowl. They've been there twice. The 1998 season, where they lost to Denver in the Super Bowl, and then 18 years later, in 2016, when they lost to New England in the Super Bowl.
25-3. Fuck Atlanta just for that specific loss in the Super Bowl.
The NFC Championship games for both of those years, though, for Atlanta, those were quite memorable. One involved our Packers, and the other involved the Minnesota Vikings with their one-loss season.
Yeah.
The wide left.
Yeah, Gary Anderson's a lot happier memory than the other one that I was at that was just a complete debacle.
That's a brief history of the Atlanta Falcons.
And Neil wanted the Packer player of the past to be Eugene Robinson, but we don't have time to go down that road, Neil. We're going to wrap things up. Special thanks to our guest, Kait. Looking forward to the Atlanta Falcons, 2 teams, 1-0, matching up on Sunday. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Jeff?
No, I'm looking forward to, well, I picked Atlanta to win. I did not pick Green Bay to win. So I hope I'm wrong. I didn't put a lot of confidence on it in the confidence pool. Go Pack.
I have changed what I think is going to happen this week because I was thoroughly impressed by what the Packers did in Chicago. And you can argue, well, it was just Chicago. But on the other hand, what we saw on the defense, what we saw for Jordan Love's poise on that offense, and combine that with what we saw Atlanta doing or what Atlanta didn't do in their first game, I think that we've got a reasonable chance. I think it's going to be a difficult game, but I have confidence. I have growing confidence. And one of the things that is cool is that there is growing confidence in the media. Last week, we said, well, why are the Packers ranked 28th to 25th in every media ranking? Well, Green Bay now is ranked, we're only 1 week in, but Green Bay is now ranked 4th overall in DVOA on the season. So that takes into account the opposition. And perhaps more relevantly, Aaron Schatz, who is the person who invented DVOA, his rankings now have the Packers' mean number of wins at 10.3 with a 72% chance of making the playoffs. That's how impressed the statistics were with what the Packers did in week 1. My eyes are impressed even more than statistics were. Go Pack, go.
And you're right. The eye test certainly was passed in week 1. The anticipation to just see what really is going to happen once this team gets on the field. But Neil, you also touched on it there. It's really hard to make a season-long prediction before seeing any games and seeing anything happen. We put it on paper. We put it in, we recorded it so that we can talk about it at the end of the season. But what we do have to realize is that teams themselves grow. There is an evolution process that can happen within the season. We talked about it earlier, and we hope that this young team continues to gel. The defense, the disruption of the defense is there. And as that offense continues to be a more precise offense, if they continue to gain confidence, they will do well this season. I put Green Bay down for a win this week, and I'm going to stick with that as well. All right, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe, leave a comment for us or for our guest, Kait. You can also find the GBC podcast at Green Bay Chat. That's all one word on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and Spotify. We're on Facebook at the GBC podcast, Green Bay Chat. We'll also be cross-posting some links to Kait and Cheese All That for their podcast as well. And may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Good night.